Hey guys, a lot of you have been asking me about my historical boob stuff, my historical breast collection, nipple shields, breast pumps, like how do you use it, what's the history of it, how does it work, what do you do, and I'm here to tell you all about them historical boobies because that's one of my very favorite subjects. I love historical boobs. Yeah, I collect historical boob stuff. I'm even wearing for you a Edwardian nursing nightgown. This would have been a utilitarian item for sure. It would have been very treasured. It would have been very easy to wear. It was monogrammed. Okay, so we're gonna get started. And before we do, I just want to make a note of this tray because it's very interesting as well. It has its own history that doesn't have anything to do with boobs. But it was for a hospital for wounded World War I soldiers who had been blinded. Very specific, but yeah, that's what it's for. We're going to start by talking about these two nipple shields. These two nipple shields are the oldest in my collection. They're both from around the late 1700s to the early 1800s, and this one is elephant ivory, and this one is silver. They're both European. They both would have been for someone of a wealthy class. Poor women had to suffer. They would have been worn to protect your nipple from becoming chapped, from a child that has gotten teeth. They would have been a very valuable tool. This one is glass. It would have been more available to the middle class. These ones are very interesting because they're actually lead, so not safe at all. Metallic nipple shields for sore nipples. This is probably 1870s, 1880s. They've got their little directions on there. And yeah, they were lead. Now, luckily these ones weren't for the baby to actually nurse through because there's no holes. These were more to just protect your nipple from getting chapped. You could put some ointment on inside and use them. But being that they were lead, of course, they're not safe. And so women were advised to wipe down their nipples before they started to breastfeed again. But of course, that didn't always happen, and there were some cases of some infant mortalities related to lead poisoning. So these are called nipple shells. Nipple protectants. They are made the same way, even though they could be made out of many different materials. These two are glass. And they will protect your garments from milk leakage. They both have a hole up top for draining the milk afterwards, and of course a hole right there for that's where your nipple goes. These are mid 1800s. I mean, who wants to ruin all those beautiful gowns with milk? So these are the solution. Different types of breast pumps were made and used throughout the years. There's even a kind with bellows. There's kinds that hook onto your wall. There's just all different types of breast pumps. The oldest breast pump in my collection, and this one's actually really quite rare. I've only seen maybe 3 examples of it. It's got a green leather case and is lined in pink velvet. It's really quite fancy. This one is different from all the rest because it is so old. It definitely predates them all. This is 18th century. And the other ones all work by applying some kind of suction. This one would have been used by applying pressure. And it's got like an inverted nipple right there. And then you've got this hole right here to drain it afterwards. It's turning my hands yellow. Ooh, it's probably arsenic. A wealthier woman would have had this. Some woman who would have wanted to travel independently. Breastfeeding has gone in and out of style. Probably when this was made, the wealthier women wouldn't have breastfed their own babies. You still have to get your milk out. Otherwise, your breasts will be very enlarged and very painful. Definitely a wet nurse she probably would have had, especially someone of this status. A wet nurse of good moral character, because back then they thought that some traits got passed to you by breast milk. And remember when you did breast pump in these days, there were no refrigerators, so you could not refrigerate your milk. You would have had to either put it directly in the bottle then, or it was garbage. Stuffed your nipple and pressed and created that pressure, really cupping your breast to relieve that breast milk. This one is all hand blown. It is glass. It is from about 1860s. I mean, this looks weird, right? It looks like a like a pipe or a bong, essentially. My grandmother actually thought it was a bong when I showed this to her. So you put your breast in there, and either this had a rubber tube that went through this hole, or somebody else applied the suction, maybe another kid, or, you know, maybe your poor husband, I don't know. Or you would have had a rubber tube again, or, you know, someone else starting the suction. This one's more fancy because it is mechanical. It's got its own key. Really pretty mahogany case. It's velvet lined. You have to unscrew this little top part. And then screw this on. And there you go. And this would have originally had a rubber stopper inside that created a suction. And you would have this would have been easier than the other one because you could have just done it yourself without getting breast milk in your mouth. This pump would have been popular in the second half of the 19th century. Like this, and then just suction it out. And then we have this one, and this one is interesting. It was actually found in a well in Pennsylvania, the bottom of a well. The weirdest stuff is found in digs. A lot of this type of personal items are found in wells or outhouses. This is actually the earliest type of plastic. It's called celluloid. This was before Bakelite. This was before modern plastic. This was essentially the first plastic, and that was celluloid was invented in 1860s, 1870s. This is pretty safe to say this particular one is probably turn of the century. And again, it would have had what they would have called India rubber inside, and it would have, you know, created this suction to use. This one is in its box still. It's interesting because it's still completely intact. Usually the rubber has been long disintegrated with it, and it's still got its glass topper right here for your mouth. So it would have hooked to your breast like this. Milk would have collected in here, and this is the rubber tubing with the glass top right here. And you would have done this yourself. It would have been completely manual. You would have stuck it on your breast and sucked from this and created the suction yourself. This one, I don't want to pull on the rubber because it's very fragile, but like this, and then you would have had that tip right there go into your mouth. Thank you guys for watching Boob History. History of boobs, titties, nipples, breasts.